Hello, everybody out there in Radio Land. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org here in WIDR Kalamazoo. As always, the following thoughts, views, and opinions are not necessarily those of 89.1 WIDR or Western Michigan University, no matter how dope or insightful they may turn out to be. If you just tuned in, this is our weekly no news program. Your host, Andy Argo, I dig underneath the headlines, expose the capitalist propaganda, and basically talk about what is really going on from a working class perspective. So we got a lot to talk about, and we're going to be spending most of today's show in a thoroughly working class breakdown of last week's presidential debate. We're going to be starting with that in about 20 minutes. But we got a couple of local stories that I wanted to hit on first before we get into the presidential muck, as it were. So, want to start again with an update from our comrades over at the WMU American Association of University Professors. They are currently in a contract struggle with the administration. And I wanted to give you all an update. This is hot off the presses. It was just published today on September 17th. This comes straight from them. It's from President Catherine Bailey and Vice President Christopher Nagel. Western Michigan University withholds faculty raises to force its lowball offer. As we shared in a previous message, it appears that Western Michigan University administration may have attended all along to Stonewall under the guise of ongoing negotiations in order to force the faculty in accepting a lowball compensation offer. In short, while the administration has gone through the motions of negotiating on compensation and continues to do so, the administration's lackluster efforts at compromise suggest a plan to force the faculty into accepting a skimpy increase or risk getting no raise at all. As a reminder, this summer, the WMU AAUP has been focused not on its entire contract with Western, but rather a reopener of compensation and healthcare. This means that the contract as a whole remains in force while these two critical articles are renegotiated. While the process more or less functioned with healthcare negotiations due to open enrollment deadlines, the administration was eager to get a tentative agreement in place. They seem to feel no such urgency about across the board raises. And as per Article 49 of the WMU AAUP agreement, the administration may simply choose to implement its last offer if negotiations continue past the deadline, although this is subject to continued bargaining by both sides. As of now, the administration's last offer was roughly 3% in each year, representing just 1/4 of 1% increase over their initial offer of 2.75. Why has the administration barely budged from its low number? One explanation is that they have been planning all along to simply force a low salary onto employees, i.e., their final best offer. Consequently, rather than making an effort to compromise, they've been going through the motions of salary negotiation but failing to budge. At the same time, the WMU AAUP proposal has gone from 11.25 with additional annual research supplements to 8.8, and we have urged the administration to provide a genuine counteroffer. Crucially, however, while the administration may implement that last offer, a 3 by 3, they have emphasized the fact that they need not do so. One potential result is that employees could get no raise at all if the WMU AAUP refuses formally to agree to a lowball raise that many of our members have identified as unacceptable. If this process were to continue to unfold, then the administration would likely attempt to blame the faculty union for refusing to agree to that lowball offer. Concern grows when one further considers that the administration has refused to make itself reasonably available to negotiate at key times. They were not available to negotiate on the crucial last day, August 30th, and now seem to be settling on occasional availability. In addition, the process of negotiation is one in which our team, including an attorney whom we must pay for by the hour, is mostly left to languish in a conference room all day while the administration authorizes the mediator to reiterate its position to us from time to time. While maintaining the shallow performance of negotiations may not be a big deal for WMU, they seem untroubled at spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, perhaps millions, on an anti union attorney. This wasteful process is, as they know, a hardship for the WMU AAUP. This is because of attorney fees and because our team members are busy faculty members and not administrative bureaucrats. We reiterate this message to you now because we will not be surprised if the administration begins to suggest that the faculty union is to blame for the administration's failure to implement that last offer raise while it continues to engage in its unconvincing performance of negotiating. If so, please keep in mind that they are willfully refusing to provide the faculty with meaningful compensation increases, despite the fact that Western can afford it and the faculty deserve it. Please further note that nothing prohibits the administration from providing you with a minimal last offer increase while negotiations continue. In fact, each day that goes by that you see no such increase on your paycheck is cause for concern. Does President Montgomery plan to hold even this small compensation increase hostage by threatening the union with zero increase? As you consider all this, please keep in mind that the administration's manipulative, disingenuous negotiating strategy only works if they continue to believe they can get away with ignoring employee dissatisfaction and solidarity. To that end, the chapter will continue to help focus the faculty's ongoing determination to restore investment in Western's academic mission. See below for ongoing suggestions about how you can participate. And again, you can go to the website. There's lots of ways that they encourage you to get involved. There is going to be a Board of Trustees meeting on Thursday, September 22nd at the, Thursday, September 26th at the Student Center at noon. And they also recommend some other ways that you can express your solidarity, mostly sharing articles like this on social media, etc. So that is, you can go to the WMUAAUP.com as it kind of keeps us updated on the union and its negotiations. That headline was Western Michigan University withholds faculty raises to force its lowball offer. So one other story that we're going to go to before we start talking about the debate, and this is really important. And so in lefty circles, there's a term that we use sometimes, PFP, progressive, no, PEP, progressive except for Palestine. And I can't think of a more apt description of this next politician who, they made waves in the last couple elections. They're going to fight for LGBTQ rights. They're going to try to dismantle Line 5. They ran unabashedly as a progressive attorney general. I'm talking about Dana Nessel. And what they're engaging right now is some of the most authoritarian nonsense I have heard in some time. It's going to have stifling ramifications for freedom of speech on campus in relation to the anti-genocide protests. This is an article from the World Socialist website. It's published on September 15th, written by Luke Galvin. Michigan Attorney General charges 11 pro-Palestinian student protesters at the University of Michigan. Last Thursday, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel released a statement announcing that her office filed charges against 11 pro-Palestinian protesters at the University of Michigan. The charges are an escalation of the bipartisan campaign, which in Michigan has been spearheaded by the Democratic Party, to attack and suppress the rights of students and workers to protest war and genocide. Nessel's office issued a statement saying that they were charging 11 out of the over 35 protesters who were investigated. 7 of the protesters are being charged with trespassing and obstructing a police officer, a felony with a maximum 2-year sentence. 2 are only being charged with trespassing. The remaining 2 demonstrators are charged with various misdemeanors, likely stemming from interactions with Zionist counter-protesters, including disturbing the peace and attempted ethnic intimidation. And again, this goes back to this whole idea of trying to conflate opposition to the Israeli government and its policies to anti-Semitism. Again, it is not anti-Semitic to criticize the Israeli government, particularly when they're doing a genocide. That's a particularly astute time to criticize a government. Anyway, going on. The Attorney General has also stated that the protesters were involved in the months-long protest encampment set up at the University of Michigan Ann Arbor campus Diag last semester. The peaceful tent encampment was attacked and destroyed by police on May 21st, following weeks of provocations by the University of Michigan administration and police. Nessel's offer clarified that they are currently not prosecuting protesters involved in the honors convocation on March 25th inside Hill Auditorium, or those who interacted with police outside the University of Michigan Museum of Art on May 3rd. The investigation into protesters placing fake corpses and bloody toys in front of 8 Regents' homes on May 15th continues. Employing the same doublespeak used by University of Michigan administrators and those of other major universities across the U.S. to justify their new authoritarian policies directed against anti-genocide protesters, Nessel proclaimed, "The right to free speech and assembly is fundamental. However, violent and criminal behavior or acts that trample on another's rights cannot be tolerated. I hope today's charges are a reminder to everyone who chooses to assemble, regardless of the cause, that the First Amendment does not provide a cover for illegal activity." In other words, the right of students, youth, and workers to peacefully assemble and protest the Gaza genocide or any other crime of U.S. imperialism and its allies is illegal. The charges are a direct attack on democratic rights that are undeniably coordinated within the upper echelons of the Democratic Party and the state intelligence apparatus. Nessel is the right hand of Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a leader in the party and among those who were earlier floated to replace Joe Biden. Furthermore, the charges come as the latest in a string of attacks on students' and workers' rights since the beginning of the fall semester. On August 28th, police violently arrested 4 protesters at a peaceful die-in protest on the Diag for impeding foot traffic. These arrests came within days of the University of Michigan administration's announcement of its revised conduct policies, which allow the university to file a complaint against a student with practically no restrictions. And by the way, if you want to find out more about that, we had a fantastic conversation last week with Huwaida Arif, who was running for regent over at the U of M. That's you can find that on our YouTube and our podcast page. Previously, all complaints about misconduct had to come from staff members, faculty, or students. These new policies provide legal cover to allow for outside consulting firms to gather information and file complaints and sanctions against students on behalf of the university. The change in policy at University of Michigan mirrors similar actions taken by other administrations, including Columbia University overtly banning encampments and Rutgers students needing to submit a free expression notification form. Students who participated in protests at George Washington University last academic year started the semester facing potential criminal charges. These administrations are clearly attempting to intimidate and restrict students to prevent any expression of the widespread anti-war and pro-Palestinian sentiment. This article actually references what we were just talking about. On August 31st, the Michigan Democratic Party blocked the nomination of Palestinian American activist Huwaida Arif, who won the popular vote to become the Democratic candidate for the University of Michigan Board of Regents. Arif was backed by the Tahrir Coalition of student groups against the genocide in Gaza. Both Arif and leaders of the Tahrir Coalition have accused the Michigan Democratic Party of manipulating the vote through a vote weighting system in coordination with other candidates. Both the American Human Rights Council and the American Civil Liberties Union of Michigan have denounced the charges against students as an alarming attack on democratic rights. In its statement on the charges, the AHRC demanded Nessel rescind the charges while calling on municipalities and academic institutions to respect the rights of protesters. Dr. Izan Al-Khatib of Murray State University, an advisory board member of the AHRC, explained the impact of Nessel's decision. These charges relate to matters that are ordinarily handled at the local level. Nessel is choosing to use the power of the state when it is known that she has a position on the issue and is not an objective state official simply enforcing the law as she sees fit. In its own statement, the ACLU noted Nessel's act of announcing the charges run the serious risk of chilling future speech and protest on the campuses. The ACLU's statement continues, laying particular significance on the fact that the state government is bringing trespassing misdemeanor charges against protesters, charges which, as the AHRC pointed out, are largely dealt with by university and local authorities. The charges by the Michigan Attorney General represent a pattern of excessive response by law enforcement to the campus protests. As we noted, when the campus encampment at the University of Michigan was dismantled in May, the use of militarized tactics by the police, including chemical munitions, was grossly disproportionate to what had been a peaceful protest. The escalation of attacks against anti genocide protests has exposed the futility of a perspective based on pressuring the University of Michigan administration and Democratic Party to halt the genocide in Gaza. Furthermore, the attacks coincide with an overt pressure on the protests to capitulate to Kamala Harris's campaign for U.S. president. Attacks on democratic rights are escalating at the same time as the ruling class assaults on jobs, living conditions, and social spending. At the same time, the threat of fascism has materialized in Donald Trump's campaign for U.S. president. The Democratic Party has refused to publicly acknowledge this threat and presents no progressive alternative to it. The only perspective capable of ending the genocide in Gaza and the threat of fascism is an international socialist anti-war movement based on the working class. As the objective political situation continues to deteriorate, workers are being driven into struggle against the capitalist ruling class and its political system. Workers and youth require a revolutionary perspective based on the historical understanding of the crises at hand and socialist internationalism. Anyway, you can find that on the World Socialist website. Headline: Michigan Attorney General charges 11 pro-Palestinian student protesters at the University of Michigan. It's written by Luke Galvin. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, me and my co-hosts are going to be spending the rest of our time until 2 o'clock talking about the presidential debates that just happened last week. Keep your dial locked. This is Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. You can also find the Media Cyphers podcast on most podcasting apps and also on YouTube. Keep your dial locked. This is Media Cyphers, your source for political revolution.